You're listening to the Overcome Pornography for Good podcast, episode 246. Welcome to the Overcome Pornography for Good podcast, where we take a research-based, trauma-informed, and results-focused approach to quitting porn. This approach has been revolutionary and changed thousands and thousands of lives. I'm your host, Sarah Brewer.
Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. I am Jessica Farmer. I'm a coach here at the Center for Overcoming Pornography, and I am so excited to be here. So I wanted to talk today about how being the Mr. Nice Guy is actually keeping you stuck. It's keeping you stuck in your pornography use, and it's keeping you stuck in your relationships. And we're going to talk all about it. So one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this today is because I see it come up so often as we're working in the program, particularly in our relationship calls. We have 2 relationship calls each month, one for the partner who is struggling with pornography use, and then we also have a call for the partner who isn't struggling with pornography use. And this concept, this idea of feeling stuck comes up in both of those calls. It's kind of 2 sides of the same coin. So no matter who you are, if you're the partner that's struggling with pornography use or the one who isn't, this episode is going to be for you. Because we're going to talk about what Mr. Nice Guy or people pleasing, what that actually looks like, why it's a problem. And then we're going to give you some really good tips on how to work past it and to work through it. So I wanted to start by giving an example of where this came up recently. So the phrase that I hear all the time is, I'm doing this to keep the peace. I decided to not bring it up because I wanted to keep the peace. And that right there, that phrase, keep the peace, is so sneaky. It's so sneaky because it sounds so good. It sounds like, oh, I'm taking the high road. I'm giving up my own personal ideas or thoughts in order to make everything more peaceful. But here's the problem, is that when we're keeping the peace, quote unquote, it's surface level lack of conflict, right? It looks really peaceful on the surface, but underneath, there's all sorts of negative feelings. There's resentment, there's discontent, there's loneliness, there's disconnection. All of that is happening underneath the surface, and we're kind of covering it up with this layer of, I'm doing this to keep the peace. And what happens is, after years and years of keeping the peace, it actually, all that stuff going on underneath the surface will actually erode your relationship and drive porn use or any other kind of buffering or numbing activity, right? That's going to lead to disconnection. So people pleasing or being Mr. Nice Guy, it's not kindness, right? We think we're being kind. We think we're keeping the peace. It's not kindness. It's self-abandonment. And when we consistently avoid discomfort in our relationships, we're going to turn to things like pornography that we can use as an escape, because it's going to soothe those unmet needs and those frustrations that come up when we're not being seen or heard or loved for our authentic selves. So people pleasing and being Mr. Nice Guy, it's not kindness, it's self-abandonment. So let's talk a minute let's get really specific about what people pleasing looks like. Because again, sometimes we think on the surface, it might look like we're just being nice people. It might just look like being kind. So I want to get specific. So people pleasing, the definition that we're working with is prioritizing other people's emotions and others' approval over our own needs and our own authenticity, our own truth, our own self. So we're prioritizing other people's experience over our own. Now, I want to be careful because sometimes it can be like, well, I don't want people to think that I'm more important. And really, it's not putting one over the other. It's recognizing that my emotions and my needs and my truth are just as important as other people's. We're putting it on a level playing field. It's not one is better or one is worse. We're recognizing that they're equal. So people pleasing, it's prioritizing other people's needs, emotions, approval over our own. Next, it's avoiding conflict at all costs. And we're going to talk a lot about this in a few minutes, but like conflict is the price of intimacy. We can't create intimacy in relationships without conflict. And what I mean by conflict is recognizing that it's the discomfort that comes up when my thoughts, feelings, experience is different than yours. You have different thoughts, feelings, opinions, or experience than I do. And that tension is naturally going to create some conflict. And that's an important piece in building closeness in relationships. So when we're avoiding conflict, when we're avoiding that tension by people pleasing, we're opting out of intimacy. So that avoidance is what we're talking about with people pleasing or being the Mr. Nice Guy. Another way it shows up is saying yes when we actually mean no. And we do this a lot because it's like, especially as adults, we're trained to do this, that it's like, okay, I don't actually want to do this thing, but I'm going to say yes because I have to, or because my partner wants me to, or because I have to do it for my job. We do it a lot where we say yes to things that we don't actually want to do. And so the people pleasing is when we kind of get into a little bit of a victim mindset of like, okay, I'm going to say yes to this because I have to, right? I have to do this. And which that frame is absolutely going to lead to resentment. So when we engage in kind of that victim mentality, we're going to feel a lot of resentment towards, our partner or whoever it is that we're engaging with. And resentment is a relationship killer. And so that's going to breed that keeping stuck kind of feeling. Another way it shows up is hiding your struggles and needs and opinions in order to avoid disappointing other people. So kind of what I was talking, similar to the first one that I was talking about, hiding what's going on with you, hiding some of those parts of you that maybe make you feel shame, right? Like hiding things that you're struggling with, hiding issues that are coming up for you. We hide it in order to avoid disappointing people and to manage their perceptions of us. And that's that people pleasing. We're trying to show other people a version of us that might not be completely true in order to avoid disappointing them. These are just a few examples about how people pleasing, it can feel like really kind. It can feel like almost noble. I'm taking the higher ground, but oftentimes it's when we look closer at it, it's often rooted in fear and control. And that's kind of the key, right? Like, okay, what is actually driving this behavior? Am I actually trying to be connected? Am I trying to be helpful? Am I trying to be kind? Or is it because I'm afraid? Is it because I'm afraid of what other people are going to think? Or is it because I'm trying to control other people's perceptions? That motivation, that fear, or that feeling that's driving our actions is going to be what the indicator of, is this people pleasing or not? So how does this relate to pornography use? It comes up in several different ways. So the first is it creates emotional avoidance, right? Like when we're struggling with people pleasing, it's hard to voice our needs and bring up the things that are important to us. It's really hard to hold boundaries when you struggle with people pleasing. So we try to kind of manage that emotional discomfort that comes up we either be quiet, we either shut it down and people please, which is going to be really uncomfortable, or we voice it and risk rejection, which is going to be uncomfortable. It all creates this like internal tension, this negative emotion that comes up. And so porn becomes like the release valve. It becomes the thing that releases that inner tension through that like emotional avoidance. So that's one way that it connects. Another way is that fear of disapproval, right? That fear of being seen as weak or flawed or difficult or unappreciative, right? It's that fear of not being seen as someone who is good and kind and just nice. So we want to be seen that way. And then when we engage in like showing that version of ourselves that isn't actually us, we start hiding things from our partners, or we start hiding struggles with porn from our partner, which is going to lead to this continued cycle of secrecy and shame. And it just keeps going. That fear of disapproval, that fear of she's not going to love me anymore, she's going to divorce me. And I'm using she, and it could be either one, right? It could be the wife in this, or the female in the partnership that's struggling with porn use. It can be either way. So it just continues this cycle of secrecy and shame. Another thing that comes up is this inauthenticity in relationships. So we're not showing up honestly. We're not showing up as who we actually are. We're pretending to be fine. We're pretending to be like everything is okay. Again, it's like, I'm just going to pretend like everything is smooth waters in order to keep the peace, right? And when that happens, your relationships, we kind of deny our relationships the opportunity to grow deeper. It lacks depth. We lack that real connection, which ultimately leads to loneliness. And loneliness is one of the biggest triggers for folks when we struggle with porn use, right? We feel that loneliness and we don't know how to fix it. And so we turn to porn to feel better, at least for a few minutes, right? So that not being fully present, not allowing ourselves to be fully seen and engage in those deeper relationships and real connection is going to lead to that porn use. And again, like we were talking about conflict avoidance, it's trying to, like the fear of having difficult conversations about sex or triggers or unmet needs, or even like that fear of having hard conversations and fear of your partner's feelings, right? If they have big negative emotions that come up, that can trigger a lot of shame for us. And so we have this fear of engaging in all of that, right? We're fearful of what it's going to bring up for in us, that fear, that shame, that anger. It might bring up big emotions in us, but we're also fearing what it might bring up in our partner. So that conflict that can come up when we have those hard conversations. So instead, we just avoid it altogether, right? We're like, oh, never mind. I'm just going to shut that down and we're not going to go there. Which when we avoid it, it comes back to unresolved tension and unmet needs that aren't being met. And so I'm going to turn to porn rather than deal with the discomfort of dealing with those emotions. So all in all, you can't be fully seen and known and be constantly people-pleasing. You can't be the nice guy and allow yourself to be seen as the full complex person that you are. And real connection can only happen when you're willing to show up in honestly as your full self, not just the mask that we want to wear when we're people-pleasing. So these are some of the things that kind of the cost of people pleasing. First of all, it leads to like half-hearted attempts in accountability. It's half-hearted attempts to address your porn use. It's saying like whatever your partner wants to hear, like, okay, yeah, I'm doing great. Nothing has happened for the last month or so. I'm doing fine. It's kind of that half-hearted accountability. It leads to undermined trust in relationships, right? Hiding anything, any parts of ourselves, hiding our struggles that we're dealing with as we're feeling urges, but also hiding those deeper parts of ourselves, or triggers. We're trying to avoid upsetting our partner. It always is going to undermine that trust. So even in situations where you know that being honest is going to cause your partner some big emotions, even if it causes big emotions, it actually builds trust when we're honest, right? When we're open and honest. So, and also it delays healing when we engage in people pleasing. It's refusing to advocate for our own needs. And so we're kind of, again, like in this state of keeping the peace. We're just kind of putting a band-aid over things rather than actually doing the work to heal. We have to uncover those parts of ourselves that we're trying to hide in order to find true healing. It also keeps intimacy really shallow in your relationship. It's built on a performance, right? So it's not actually real. It's again kind of that smooth water. It's smooth on top, but underneath there's lots and lots of stuff that's going on. A relationship, all in all, like a relationship where you can't disagree or disappoint or show struggle, it's not actually intimacy, it's a performance. And that's the cost of people pleasing. With all that, how do we break this pattern? How do we break the people pleasing pattern? So here's a couple of things that I want you to practice. First of all, number one is naming it. Awareness is always going to be the first step. You want to start noticing moments when you're engaging in people pleasing, where you're saying yes when you mean no, or when you're saying, oh, whatever you want, instead of actually sharing your opinion, where you're making yourself small in order to avoid conflict, and where you're avoiding being honest in order to avoid having difficult conversations. So those are all going to be kind of your indicator lights of like, oh, okay, I see what I'm doing here. I'm actually trying to be the nice guy. I'm trying to people please. So number one, we're noticing it. We're naming it. Another thing that we can do to help break this up is start small. We want to start finding low risk moments where we can start being really honest. One of my favorite ways to do this is if you and your partner are going on a date or you're getting dinner or, something like that, instead of saying, oh, I don't know where to go. Well, you just pick a place. Try being honest. Try vocalizing your opinions, right? Say, no, this is actually what I want. I really don't feel like Mexican tonight. Maybe I feel like Italian. So just start vocalizing and being honest in those like low risk moments that really don't matter, and start practicing that. I've been doing this work because I am 100% a recovering people pleaser, guys. But one of the things that came up for me is like recognizing, for me, it was how I dress. Recognizing I did not like dressing in certain ways that I felt like I should be dressing. And I started buying clothes that I loved, right? I started buying things that I like, that I feel comfortable in, that just feel like me. They make me feel good. And so instead of fitting some sort of like wardrobe, I started buying things that make me feel good. So again, small, low risk moments. You start being honest in those. Number 3 is allowing for discomfort. And we talk a lot about this in the program. We want to recognize that being honest might disappoint people. It might cause some negative emotions in our partner, and that's okay. It's okay. We can handle discomfort. We can handle our partner feeling big emotions. It's okay for them to feel angry or sad. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that we're wrong for feeling the way that we do, or we're wrong for vocalizing our experience. It just means that they're having some emotions and we can work through that together. And that process of being honest with what's going on for us and recognizing the negative emotions and helping our partner work through those negative emotions, it actually builds a healthier connection in the long run. So allow for the discomfort. The discomfort is actually super, super important for growth and connection. So number 4, we want to stop managing other people's emotions. Oh my gosh, this is a huge one. That is kind of the core of people pleasing, is trying to manage other people's perceptions, other people's feelings, and their processes. We're trying to manage it and make it easier on them. But in the process, we end up blocking other people from their own growth, right? Whether that's your partner or whether it's other people in your life. But when we're managing other people's emotions, we're not giving them the opportunity to show up in our lives. We're not giving them the opportunity to see us as we really are. And we're not giving them the opportunity to grow. So it's not our job to manage other people's feelings. Our job is to show up authentically. My only job in my relationship is to show up as the best version of me, no matter what that is on any given day. It changes every day. Okay, so number 5, we want to invite honest conversations. That can look like, hey, I've realized that I sometimes hide what I'm really feeling, right? And I do that because I don't want there to be conflict. I don't like that turmoil, but I'm recognizing that it's not healthy. It's not healthy in the long term for me, and it's not healthy for our relationship. So I want to work on being more honest with you, even when it's uncomfortable. And having those kinds of conversations, just laying it out on the table and being like, hey, I want to be more honest with you, but I know that sometimes me being honest makes you uncomfortable. So let's plan together how we want to deal with that. And you can come up with plans for how to make sure that your needs are taken care of and how to make sure your partner's needs are taken care of. And that might look like, okay, we're going to take a break in the conversation. Maybe it's, okay, I need to just take a minute and process what you're saying and care for my own emotions. And then we're going to come back together. So come up with that plan so that you can engage in real, honest conversations together. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I want you, if you take nothing else from this episode, I want you to remember, 1, people pleasing isn't kindness. It's actually fear. It's fear and shame and manipulation in disguise, right? It's not kindness. It's all of those things, right? I want you to remember that people pleasing is keeping you isolated, and it fuels lots of these numbing or buffering behaviors like pornography use. And that real intimacy means risking negative feelings like disappointment and frustration. And it requires you to be fully known. It requires you to show all of those pieces of yourself that are uncomfortable. And so allow for the discomfort. And I want to invite you to, first of all, to notice one people-pleasing moment this week and practice those small levels of honesty, right? Those low-risk moments of being really honest and authentic. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
I want to invite you to come and listen to my free class, How to Overcome Pornography for Good Without Using Willpower. We talk about how to stop giving into urges without pure willpower or relying on phone filters so that you can actually stop wanting pornography. We talk about how to stop giving up after a few weeks or months. And spoiler alert, the answer isn't have more willpower. And then lastly, we talk about how to make a life without porn easily sustainable and permanent. If you're trying to quit porn, this class is a game changer. So you can go and sign up at sarahbrewer.com/masterclass, and it is totally free.